There are a few simple things in Rise of Kingdoms that you can do which will drastically change your reports. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys a checklist that you need to follow every single time before you fight in the open field. And in the end, on top of the checklist, I'm going to give you 2 bonus extra tips that you need to be doing in KVK. Now, starting with number 1, on the checklist, it's going to be being in the correct alliance. Of course, you're going to get better reports if your alliance technology is good. And if you take a look at the alliances, the way you can kind of tell it by looking at how many maximum members an alliance can have. For example, this one can have maximum of 142, but this one 75. And this simply means that the technology of this alliance is way better compared to this one. And naturally, if an alliance technology is way better, that means that is one of the main alliances in the kingdom. And if you are in one of the main alliances in the kingdom, this means you have access to most amount of holy sites in the KVK, and this will of course buff your troops even further. For example, these 2 holy sites are controlled by our alliance, and if you take a look at this one, it gives troop defense 5%, and this one, I think it was march speed. Yeah, Tempest Sanctuary, it gives 10% march speed. So all these little bonuses will of course increase your reports, maybe not 40% or 30% better reports by itself, but when they're all combined, you will see how massive is the difference. So the first thing is being in the correct alliance. And then of course I will say this is the most major one, having the correct talent tree, equipment and armaments on your commanders. For example, at the start of the KVK, when we suddenly started fighting with our enemies who were initially our allies, I will make a KVK recap video, so make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it, because this KVK was hectic. My reports were really bad. And then I realized my talent tree on Minamoto, I was actually using this one, Peacekeeping Talent Tree, because I wasn't expecting to fight with them because they were our allies. So this tree was active and I had no idea. And that's why you always need to make sure that you have your PvP talent tree is active before you start fighting. The next thing is of course equipment, and the reason why I'm saying equipment, you might say, okay, equipment is just sits on the commander anyways. However, for example, in KVKs, there are downtimes and there are fight times, right? During downtimes, I might just take this equipment off from Minamoto and put it on, let's say, Cao, for example, to be able to rally some barbarian force. And then what's going to happen is that I might forget that equipment was on Cao, and I might just send Minamoto on the field pretty much naked, which will completely destroy your report. And then the armaments, but I don't think that you will ever unequip an armament from a commander unless you have a better one. So your armaments will stay here, but the major things, 2 things that you need to pay attention is make sure that you have the correct talent tree applied, and of course, the correct equipment is equipped. Once all your commanders are ready, talent tree and equipment wise, and then what you want to do is setting up your quick deploy. There is this multi-select option, right? You can deploy multiple troops at once. But what you need to pay attention is if you are using more than 1 march, most likely you will, unless you are in, KVK 1 or 2. What you need to do is doing kind of what I did, which is putting your slowest march to number 1, then the next one to number 2, and then use your faster marches. Because what's going to happen is if I do that, first it's going to deploy Richard March, and then it's going to deploy Minamoto. The idea behind it is that since Minamoto is faster than Richard, I want my game to deploy Richard before Minamoto, so it kind of reduces the difference, the distance between them. Because if I deploy Minamoto first, he will be way ahead of Richard. And that is something that you don't want to be doing in the field. You want that compact murderable, right? You want your marches a little bit closer to each other. Now, the other thing that you want to do, I would say you always want to free 1 slot. Always. If you can use maximum 5 marches, use only 4 marches on the field. If you can do 6, use 5. Because you want that 1 free slot to be occupied by your 1 march T1 cavalry. The reason for that is pretty simple actually. Cavalry is the fastest troop type in the game, and lower tier units are faster than higher tier units. So tier 1 cavalry is going to be the fastest unit that you can possibly use in Rise of Kingdoms. The reason why this is important is because with this 1 unit cavalry, you of course every single time before you fight, you first want to grab a rune. For example, on this one, we have Rune of Fire, 5% attack, 5% defense, pretty good. In total, 10% of stats. But it might change, right? There is a 7% version of it. 7% troop attack, 7% defense, I think it was. So 14% in total. So number 1, you want to, of course, always grab the best rune. It might be here, it might be here, whatever. If you're in earlier KVKs, yes, you can definitely go with an attack rune if the stats are better. higher. But in Season of Conquest, I will say, since from Crystal Technology we already have a lot of attack, and because of, diminishing returns, I will probably try to find a health rune, and most likely use a health rune, even if it was, here it is, 7% attack, 7% defense, this one 10% attack. So I was saying, in Season of Conquest, if we had, for example, this one was 10% health rune, I might be picking that up instead of this one, because I really rate health stat very highly in Season of Conquest. As I said, because we have a lot of attack in Crystal Technology anyways. So always make sure that one slot is free and train a tier 1 cavalry unit just so that you can grab the runes before you start fighting as fast as possible. Next one on the list shouldn't be a big surprise, and it's going to be Advanced Army Expansion. Well, Army Expansion in general, I should say. This one, Basic Army Expansion, will increase your unit capacity by 25%, and this will increase by 50%. Now, obviously, this is the better one. So this one will be active for 4 hours. You will be able to increase, for every single march by the way, that unit capacity by 50%, which will completely, just by itself, will change the reports that you are getting. However, the thing that I want you to pay attention here is not wasting these, because these are expensive, right? You can get them for free from certain events. However, it's not a lot. So sometimes you might even need to buy them from Courier Station. And they cost around, the cheapest one with 70% discount, I think they cost around 2,000 gems. So I don't want you to waste it. This one also is active for 4 hours, but it's only 25%. What I want you to do is, every single time you fight, you need to be thinking like this. Is this fight going to last, let's say, at least 2 hours? And number 2, do I have 2 to 4 hours to be able to fight in one sitting? If your answers is no to either of the questions, then don't apply the advanced one, go with the basic one. This is a lot easier to collect. The reason why I have 16 of this but 17 of these is because I most of the time don't have that 2 to 4 hours in one sitting, so I go with the basic army expansion. Same goes for boost. You always want to apply boost as well. 24 hours, 12 hours, it doesn't matter. Like, you will have plenty of these. I don't have it, but there is also a 10% version of this. 10% defense, 10% attack. I think 10% defense is the best one. And then 10% attack, then 5% defense, and finally 5% attack. But your rule of thumb should be only use that 10% boost if you are applying Advanced Army Expansion. This means you are going to be staying longer in the field, and then you will have more value, get more value from that extra 10% boost compared to 5% one. Yes, it is only 5% difference. However, and those all little things adds up, it makes a huge difference, as I said at the start of the video. And one last thing that you need to do before fighting is going to be, and a lot of people forget about it actually, is War Frenzy. Now, if you don't know what War Frenzy is, let's simply scout this guy, and as you can see, this behavior will activate War Frenzy effect. By the way, you don't need to scout anyone. You can either scout, or you need to be targeting someone actively in the field. It increases your troop attack by 3%, but rendering you unable to use Peach Shield for 15 minutes. So every single time you activate your War Frenzy, it will increase your troop attack by 3%. Why would you say no to extra 3% of stats? So send the scout, and now, boom, you do have your War Frenzy ready for 15 minutes. And you usually want to do it before the first fight, the initial fight, because when you started fighting, you are going to constantly select in troops anyway. So your War Frenzy will always be active, and you don't need to scout anybody. But before the initial fight, you want to scout someone or do anything basically that activates the War Frenzy for extra stats. Now, this was our full checklist. This is everything that you need to do, in my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below if I forgot anything. Please contribute to the list. But here are 2 bonuses. Now, this is for KVK in general. A lot of people get caught with this. Always, you want your city to be in the alliance territory when you are fighting. Because here's the thing. For example, I am in this alliance, right? Fury. But if I wanted to, I can teleport to S21's territory. I can teleport to C21's territory. Doesn't matter. They are our alliances, and Season of Conquest, we have the coalition system, right? So you can still teleport to the coalition territory. However, this doesn't mean that that territory is safe. Your city can still be rallied even if you're in the coalition territory. If you don't want to get rallied, you have to be in the alliance territory, your alliance territory, not the coalition territory. Now, the second bonus tip is again about your city and getting rallied. Even if you think that, okay, KVK is over, or we are in the zone with our allies, whatever, don't leave your city in a danger zone. What I mean by that, it is basically any zone that any kingdom that have access other than yours. Because in this KVK, for example, as I said, I will explain everything in the KVK recap video. We were in Kingsland with completely different kingdoms. We were allied with different kingdoms, for example, this one, O1. And people left their city in the Kingsland. They were in the alliance territory, like, you cannot be rallied. However, the morning when I wake up, I realize that we are now fighting with these guys. So some flags, unfortunately, were destroyed in night, and those cities got zeroed. And that's why every single time you're going to be inactive, I'm not saying like half hour, 1 hour, doesn't matter. But let's say you are going to sleep, you are going to work, you are going to be inactive for like at least a few hours. I think it is worth using a teleport other than risking it and going back to your territory in the safe zone. Don't waste everything just because you think you are safe. I mean, instead of using this one, which one would you rather to use? 50 teleports? Maybe you're going to waste 50 teleports, but the next one, the teleport 51, is going to save you from getting zeroed. So always go back to your territory when you are going to be offline in KVK. Hope you guys liked it, hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe for more Rise of Kingdoms videos. And here I kind of explained how to get a lot of kills even with T4 units with minimum number of resources. Make sure to tap on it. It was an old video from my main account. Make sure to tap on it and I see you there.